Interact offers much more than just an HR system. It offers a fully integrated suite of products that addresses everything in HR: time, payroll, and talent management. Time and attendance, therefore, is a critical component. And the integration we offer between time and attendance, payroll, and HR is unmatched by any other vendor in the market today, because we provide our own time attendance devices, which include access control terminals. These time and attendance devices can accept cards or fingerprints or facial recognition. They can either be fixed or mobile devices. Time and attendance will provide you with timesheet information for payroll, and it will automatically transfer to payroll. It will also provide you with alerts, and it's integrated out of the box with any type of shifts and work schedules using the resource scheduling module in Interact. Like all other modules in Interact, the time clock and access control management module lets you start off with the setup and the rules and policies that will govern how you need to manage your time clocks. You can cover multiple time zones. You can set employee records to be automatically transferred to the time clocks when somebody is hired. And you can also automatically activate somebody's access in the time clocks and access control devices when the employee is terminated. You determine what kind of work schedules should be used and whether or not you'll be using the shifts and the schedules that are defined in resource scheduling. There are many other rules that you can set up, including the normal work hours per day and the normal work hours per week, which apply to most of your employees. You can create a specific default check-in, check-out policy, which allows you to set up rules about what happens if somebody shows up late for a few minutes, and what happens if somebody leaves early, or if somebody does not clock in or clock out at all. Later on, you'll have the ability to modify these rules at the individual clock level. If you are managing several buildings, then you will define all these buildings as locations, and all locations will have a specific number of entrances, which have been created here. And once we know the entrances, then we can start defining which time clocks are available at each entrance. Here's an example of a time clock that sits at the east entrance in Briggs Hall. We have all the data in order to connect to it over the internet. Note that we can record not only time records, we can also record the activity or job code. So at the time of clocking in, the person will be able to key in the code and the system will record the correct time and job information for that employee. We can also set up how the synchronization between your HR records and the time clock should happen. In other words, should we synchronize once a day, once a week, once every 2 weeks? It all depends on how urgent this information is. Next, we can create our own access groups. For example, here we have student employees for whom we determine through which entrances they can enter the building and which particular terminals they'll be able to use, how their identity should be verified, and what schedule they should be on. Here you'll notice that student employees can only access between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m., and they can only enter certain buildings. They cannot access other buildings or other entrances. The next step in this process is the user access definition, and this is where the power of Interact becomes clear. While many of today's companies still have separate HR, payroll, and time attendance systems, in our case, everything is one simple, single solution. Hardware and software are integrated. So in order to get employee data that has been keyed in by the HR department into the time and attendance system, all you need to do is synchronize your employee data. It takes only a few seconds for the application to compare records with the time attendance terminals. And once the data has been synchronized successfully, we can go and define the user access method for each individual user. An example here is a new employee, Ms. Pauline Jones, whose record has been moved to the time clock, and there we can define what will be her access method. Will she use a fingerprint, facial recognition, or MyFair card, or proximity card, or will she simply enter by putting in a code? If we are going to have her use a fingerprint, we can capture her fingerprint right here. And in a matter of seconds, the fingerprint can be replicated to all other entrances where Pauline may need to access. As you notice, there was never a time when we had to key in new information about an employee. There was never a time where we had to do import or export. All the integration required is available within the system logic. Everything has been done within the same Interact application where the employee data was synchronized with the time clocks, and in return, the application will read the time transitions from the various time clocks and access control devices to see who accessed when and who clocked in when and how. Therefore, polling the time clocks for attendance and access data can be done at any time. Here you notice that there's a new transaction from Pauline Jones. And if you want to see the details, we can see that she clocked in at this time and she clocked out at that time. And therefore, there's a total of 2 minutes and 9 seconds that have been recorded on her record. And if she had forgotten to clock out, you could provide the supervisor the ability to modify this record, just like we saw with the software clock. If we are using a hardware clock where employees are clocking in, not from their desk, but through access control and time attendance hardware devices, then the same employee time cards can be approved and reviewed by the supervisors. So the benefit of Interact is clear. Through this seamless integration, you can update your hardware devices without any manual intervention, without any extra export or import of data, but through the use of standard menus in the HR application. And all of this is integrated directly with the time and attendance policies, as well as the leave management policies, and of course, ultimately, with the payroll. And at no single time does anybody need to transfer data from one system to another. There is only one system, and there is only one database. That is the key to Interact's value proposition.